In this remarkable demonstration, Dr. Richard Bandler challenges conventional ideas about talent with extraordinary hypnotic installations. As you watch this, you may well find your creative abilities improve.
Today, I want to do something a little bit different. In neurolinguistic programming, the foundation of the entire field is based on a simple notion. A long time ago, when I was doing hypnosis, suddenly dawned on me that if you could hypnotize people and get them to do things that they couldn't do normally, what was going on? And I started thinking about it in a much broader sense because there were many people who were very talented at certain things. And NLP gives you the ability to ask very precise questions about consciousness. And it started out with spelling. There were kids that could spell and kids that couldn't spell. I happened to be one of the ones that had no idea how to spell most words because they told me that you should spell them phonetically. And you can't even spell phonetics phonetically. It actually comes out phonics. And this morning on television, there was one of the politicians here locally announcing about how they had to go back to using phonetics as the foundation of learning to read. And unfortunately, in English, most words aren't really that phonetic. Words like caught are really that we have silent letters and long vowels and all kinds of strange things that sound more like a hypnotic induction than anything else. Now, it went further than that. I think a lot of my teachers were actually very vicious hypnotists. That they did things to me. For example, when I was in the 4th grade, they came and they handed me a little plastic flute about this big and a piece of sheet music. And on the sheet music was a wonderful song called Yankee Doodle Dandy. Not one of my favorites. And they said, this is Every Good Boy Does Fine, and the spaces were face. And I didn't even know what they were talking about. And they said, learn to play this song. And I went home and I blew in the thing and it sounded horrible, so I didn't do it. And then the day before we were supposed to be tested on it, I tried to remember the song. I went, let's see, it's Yankee Doodle something or other. And I went, and I took it and I went into the class and all these kids went, and I went, and they looked at me and they said, you're not musical, took my flute away, said I couldn't be in the band, and said you'd never learn to play music. Now, since then, I've written the equivalent of over 35 symphonies. And the music's on the personal enhancement series and all of those hypnosis tapes and all kinds of other things. I've written the music for television commercials when I worked for ad agencies. I scored a whole symphony with orchestra. So they weren't exactly right, but then I'm very stubborn. They also did something else to me. They put me in an art class. I got in trouble in one class, so they pulled me out of the class and they said the only thing I could do was art. So they stuck me in the art class because I had gotten in a fight with the teacher. I was a bad boy. And the art teacher stuck a fruit bowl on a table. And she said to me, she said, everyone is going to draw the fruit bowl. And they handed us these, I don't know if they were colored crayons or something. And I drew something that looked like somebody sneezed color onto the paper. The guy next to me drew something that looked like a photograph. And I kept looking at it going, Jiminy Crickets, how's he doing this? You know, and he was like, shading everything. And the teacher came up and took it and she shook her head and looked at me disgustingly and she said, ooh, you're not artistic. And I went, not artistic. When I was 29 years old, roughly, walking down the street of New York, I was staying at the Barbizon Plaza, and my wife and I were walking down the street, and we walked in front of an art store, and my wife said to me, she said, ooh, let's get some stuff and paint. And I looked at her and went, I am not artistic. And she went, that's crazy. You do everything. Why wouldn't you be artistic? I went, not artistic. I can't. I'm not artistic. Suddenly I went, this sounds more like a post-hypnotic suggestion than reality. So she bought a bunch of art supplies, took me up in the room, and she took pastels, and she said, just draw. And I looked at the paper and went, looked at her and went, she said, draw, and I went, and she took and ripped the stuff off the side and just took it, went like that, and then she pulled out the scan of stuff and went, and I went, suddenly I felt like drawing. Now, as it turns out, then I came to London, and I was sitting on the Thames, and there was this guy sitting on the Thames, and he was drawing the buildings on the other side and the trees. And, I mean, it was very detailed, and even the lighting was the same, and the shadows and everything, and I was looking at it like this. And I said to him, I said, I don't get it. How do you get the picture that's across the river onto the canvas? And he looked at me, his pupils dilated like every deep trance subject I've ever worked with, and he went, I don't. And I went, well, isn't this you sitting here? And he said, well, it's not like that. He said, what I do is I see a big hand in the sky. And I went, right. I said, are you on something? And he went, no, not right now. And he said, the hand in the sky's got the same color that I have. And he goes, and the way I get the color is I mix together colors, because it's pretty simple. You start with 3 colors, and you mix them together, and you make pretty much all the others. And unless you're like me and you cheat. Because I found ways of cheating. I used my wife's makeup. Till I found out my first drawing with it cost me $675. But the lips were perfect. It's a mistake that cost me a lot. Because I had to go buy new stuff. And it's when you go to the makeup store and you're a guy and you go in and you go, I need this, but I need it slightly darker. And they'd always look at you and they go, no, this would match your skin just fine. And you go, it's not for me. And they go, it's San Francisco. You don't have to worry about that. But what happened is that the guy described to me in detail how as the hand in the sky moves, there's a wire that comes out of the sky down to his hand. And as this hand moves, this hand matches it. Now, suddenly, in an instant, something inside my head went, ooh. It was the same experience I had when I found out good spellers made pictures of the words. Because, you know, I tried making pictures of the words, but I made them on the back of my hand. They call that cheating. Making pictures in your head is not cheating. Now, if you're going to spell words like the word caught, you can't sound it out. But if you make a picture of it and you copy it down. Now, I took a bunch of learning disabled children. Actually, I think they were teaching disabled. That's my theory. My theory is that if you don't tell people how to do something, they won't know how to. And instead of teaching them phonetics, I took all the worst spellers in the 5th grade, and I sat them down, and I said, do you know why you're here? And they went, oh, yeah, because we're stupid. No, I said, yep, but not as stupid as me. So since you're stupid, you have to learn to cheat and not get caught. And they looked at me and went, what? And I said, let me show you how it's done. So I held up the word color, and I had the C red, and the O green, and the L blue, and the next 0 O I had something pink or something, and the R was a different color. And of course, you guys don't even spell color the same way we do. But you guys are going, where's the U? And I go, it's in England. But then I held it up, and I said, now make a picture of this word in your mind. And then I said, what color is the L? The only way you can answer that is with a remembered image. Because as soon as they started doing it that way, then I showed them all the words on their spelling test. They made pictures of them and hid them in their mind. They all went, They went in and took their spelling tests, and every single one of them got 100%. So I was fired for doing satanic rites. I'm not even making that up. I would have never dawned on me. But the teacher came in and she said, what are you doing to these children? And I said, well, I'm teaching them what it really means to memorize pictures. And she looked at me and she said, are you a Christian? And I said, no, thanks. But I had one last night. It was tasty. And she said to me, she said, well, if you're not a Christian, you have to be a Satanist, which pretty much alleviates a lot of religions if you think about it. You know, I tried to explain to her that my grandfather told me I should be a Zen Buddhist. And it was Jewish originally, but Zen, something happened. And I said, you know, Zen, sometimes you have problems, and Zen, sometimes you don't. And what happened is for me, once I got this, then I went back to my room at the Savoy Hotel, broke out all kinds of paints and stuff. That's why I'm not allowed to stay at the Savoy Hotel anymore. And I began to do the same thing he told me about. And what happened is in an instant, by putting a new idea inside my mind. Now, let me ask you, how many of you absolutely believe that you have no artistic ability, no drawing, period? Are you sure? I like it, 3 hands drop down. No, I have a problem with certainty as well as with art. Okay, and this, ma'am, second over there. That look on your face. I like this one. I can, no I can't, no I can't, yes I can, no I can't, yes I can, no I can't, yes, no, yes, yes, no. Yes, and ma'am, are you sure you have no talent? None whatsoever?
Not in that department.
No. Do you have a friend that was down here yesterday? You are friends, good God, how did I know that? Yeah, so none talent whatsoever. You can't draw at all? Can't paint?
No, not really. Not artistically, no. Definitely not.
Ma'am, why don't you get signed up? She's going to think about it. How about music?
Oh yeah, I've got a little bit there.
Oh, okay, so you got a little. You have a little music in your soul. Would you guys just sit down over there for a second? Okay, just for a minute. I'll be with you in a second. I just want. Is there somebody here that really believes they have no ability to play music and none whatsoever? Right, and I have to believe you too. You know, remember that. Okay, sir, are you chewing gum? What are you chewing on? Just your tongue or something? It's no wonder you're not musical if you bite your tongue all the time. There's nothing to be nervous about yet. I'll tell you when, and it'll be too late. Yeah, you can put your hands down. Would you come down here, sir? Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, when did you first know that you were not artistic? Were you like me? Did somebody tell you that when you were young?
Yeah, I guess so. When I was.
You guess so? Okay, this is not a guessing question. This is, you know, did you like draw and people looked at it and went, you know?
Yes, they said, no, you can't do that.
Oh, they actually came right out and said, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
Did they hold a watch up while they did this too?
No.
No, they don't need a watch. Most professionals. So was this school teachers that told you this, or?
Yes, yeah.
So you had school teachers and they looked down at you and went, no.
Yeah, it would have been when I was 10.
10? Boy, that's pretty specific. Boy, psychologists are probably really had no root experience. Right, and we're going to go into that not. But anyway, whatever happened, you believed it, so you probably don't spend a lot of time painting, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And what's your name, sir?
Neil.
Neil. So Neil down before me here is so he believes that he has no artistic talent, none whatsoever. And what's your name, ma'am?
Gina.
Gina. And you have no artistic talent either.
Yeah, I was told that I can't draw. I can sing, but I can't draw.
That's why you're at this table. I'm only asking about drawing and painting. So, have you ever painted a picture?
Not very often, no. Sometimes.
Is that like yes?
Yes.
Okay. And when you paint, do you really enjoy it?
No.
Or is it a painful experience? Traumatic, as we like to say in the psychology department.
There's a resistance.
A whole movement of people that are stopping you?
Basically.
This is going to get weirder by the moment, I can tell. So we have a resistance to this. And when you were young, did they tell you were not artistic?
Yes, we were in a class, and there was a pot of flour put in front of us, and I draw the pot of flour as I draw it.
A pot flower?
A pot flour. And
I grew up in the 60s. You don't have to apologize to me. We had lots of pot flowers. They said it was the summer of love, but it was really the summer of drugs, I can tell you. We used to go out into People's Park and, in Golden Gate Park, and all these great musicians would play with great names like the Grateful Dead. Where the heavens did they come up with that name for? It's so weird. And they would play loud music, and people would get high as kites, and then they told people, they should object to the war, like that was a novel idea. People would go, object to war? They must be communists. What that has to do with communism, I don't know. But they kept saying that that was a bad thing, and some of us went, but we like violence, but we just want to keep it at home, that's all. We minded defending our neighborhood was something, but, I just found it really hard to believe that people that didn't have cars or ships could get to America and be a threat. But they told me if one country became communist, then the next one would, and the next one would, and the next one was. Actually, it sort of fell the other way, if you think about it. Most of these, even China is now like the most capitalistic country in the world. And Russia's got a McDonald's downtown, and, and people are actually arrested in Russia now for income tax evasion. Isn't that great? Think how much things have moved forward. Giant steps. And Putin was in town just recently. I saw him outside my hotel room window, flying by in a helicopter, and they had armed guards all over the place, and I guess they had trade talks and talked about things. And it's funny to think about, all these countries that hated each other. When I was young, we just knew that they were going to blow us up. And so there was no point in painting anything. And they told me I was the same way, only I didn't have a pot flower, I had a fruit bowl. But I lived in San Francisco, so it kind of makes sense if you think about it.
I lived in Romania, so that's the difference.
You lived in what?
I lived in Romania at the time, so...
Oh, yeah, you had that wonderful guy. What was his name, the one they shot in the head? Ceausescu, yeah. He was right up to the end. He goes, you can't shoot me, I'm king. Funny, the bullet didn't know that, though, I guess.
That was the resistance?
Yeah, it's got, I believe in freedom, and I think that, anybody that, is stuffing kids in orphanages and, killing zillions of people and gassing people and stuff is probably not a nice person. That's my theory about that. I'm not terribly political. I try to avoid politics. People ask me a lot. Somebody put a question in my box and asked me if I thought some guy should be head of the Conservative Party. And I really don't think of conservatives as having parties. To ask an American about English politics is like you really have to go check your brain cells. Look who we have as presidents in our country. I mean, it's more like a circus act than anything else. I mean, we used to have Dwight Eisenhower. He was a general, and he played golf all the time. And, when I was a kid, I liked him, but my mom didn't like him. She said there was something wrong with him. But then it just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder after that. We had Nixon, he was a bit untrustworthy, and, and Bill Clinton thought getting a blowjob wasn't having sex. He couldn't have been doing it right. Just odd things. But fortunately, the world seems to develop on its own by demand. Anyway, how about you? So they told you, they said, you're not artistic, and so therefore, when you go to draw, bad things happen inside your head, because these are beliefs, and beliefs guide our behavior. The nice thing about beliefs, though, is they're not true. Some of them seem true, but things have changed. At one time, you believed certain things. I believed that the communists were going to kill us all, but they're sure taking a long time. And now we find out, that most of the things they have didn't work very well anyway. That if they couldn't make an IC chip, how did they make a ballistic missile? Well, they had to swipe the IC chips. Who did they steal them from? I wonder. Blowing a planet that shoots itself has got to look strange to aliens, don't you think? I mean, if I was in a spaceship and I was going to land somewhere and you go, look, that planet just shot itself. They wonder, they go, why haven't the aliens landed and talked to us? We're shooting ourselves all the time. And they go, it's a completely suicidal planet. Look at that. And what's this nuclear test stuff? Don't we know it works yet? I mean, I just heard recently they had a nuclear test, and I thought, you know, excuse me, but we already know they work, and they're not good for anything. The idea of blowing up a nuclear bomb to see if it works, you know, I think that people should look closer that are making this decision, that they should hold them while they blow them up, and then we wouldn't have this problem anymore. And your name is, ma'am? Christina? Christina, so how about you? Did they tell you you're not artistic?
I don't think anybody told me I wasn't artistic, but I think I noticed myself that when I drew things, they didn't quite look the way they were meant to look, in my opinion.
Does the name Picasso ring a bell?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
My wife bought a Picasso plate at a garage sale, and I thought the kids made it, because they told me they were going to make me an ashtray at school. And she put it on the table, and I used to smoke, so I lit a cigarette and went to put it out, and I almost lost half my body. In fact, I don't think I smoked again after that. I had a phobia of cigarettes. And the living room and everything else in that side of the house. That, you know, it was just one of those things. But there is a difference between art and photography. I mean, it's nice to be able, you know, back in ancient times, people were trying to draw things because they didn't have cameras. I have to admit, I'm a little miffed when I see that people spend years making something that looks just like a photograph, because it seems easier to just make the photograph. But, you know, if you want to make something, if you have an idea in your mind and you want to get it to come out to the outside, do you have a hand in your mind?
Yes.
You do have a hand in your mind that traces things?
Yes.
Oh, you do now.
Yes, I do.
It's just a thought. Anyway, is it connected to the hand on the outside?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, that's probably that, huh? Well, let me ask you something. Where's the guy go? What are you doing over there? Get the hell out here. Sit.
Hi, Richard.
Hi. Anyway, let me ask, how about you with music? Did you try to play music when you were young?
I did when I was 11 years old. I was introduced to the tuba at school, and
Go ahead.
and that's,
I'll wait here. The tuba, man, there's a rocker, huh?
so I took the tuba home, and it was the first lesson, kind of practice at home. And I started to play the tuba, and the dog next door started to howl. And my parents complained, and the next door neighbour complained at this noise. And I stopped at that point. So it really put me off. I had a bad experience with the tuba and the dog.
Yeah, the old tuba and the dog one. I know that one. How I love this country. The tuba and the dog. Well, do you think it was more the tuba or the dog that did it?
I think it was the noise coming out the tuba.
You think it was? Because
Yeah.
after all, the first time you play an instrument, you should be perfect, right?
Yeah.
You know, first music lesson that I ever took on the piano, the first thing they gave me was a piece of Mozart. And guess what? I made mistakes on the first note. And the teacher looked at me with total disdain and went, like that. And so I hit him. But that's one of the advantages of being the age I was at that time. I was a bit of a juvenile delinquent. But I just didn't like the way he looked at me. And obviously, you didn't get mad enough at the tuba or the dog. But especially if your parents said that was terrible and then you had a bad experience. Did you ever try to play music again?
No.
Do you like music?
Yes. Yeah, I really love it.
You love music and you never wanted to play any?
Yeah, I really wanted to be able to play the piano and, you know, to be able to sing, but that really put me off at that point.
I'm hearing violins in my head. Well, you know, it's a shame that the people that don't believe that the first thing that's important to be able to do something is to be able to build a powerful belief. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys a question. Okay, Christina, do you believe the sun is coming up tomorrow?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and how do you know that? So is there like a picture in your mind somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay, now, the same place that that picture is, I want you to see a picture, only I want you to see yourself dropping into a deep trance and suddenly coming out with a feverish love that makes you want to blend colors together and just relax. That's right. That's right, because as you go inside, I want your mind to take a few moments and to begin to consider that you can hook up the things inside your head in lots of ways. You can make it so that there's a wire from the picture in your head to the one on the paper, but you can also just let your feelings flow out in colors and shapes and sounds as well. That's right. Hundreds of hours it takes. That's right. And as you go deep inside, all the way down now, I want your mind to just drift away. And as you do so, I want you to soften these muscles. There's no need to feel anything other than comfort. That's right. Because you're going to go inside and we're going to go back and we're going to do a little reprogramming. We're going to put some big new beliefs where you start to see yourself enjoying. In front of you in a moment is going to be some blank paper. I'm just going to show you a few simple things. But I want you to let images come into your mind of possibilities. They're not rules. It doesn't have to be exact. That's what makes it art. Creativity is founded on letting your mind just flow so that you take ideas and you begin to relax with them. Sleep. That's right. All the way down. Really relax. Let your mind go. That's right. Take the thoughts outside of your head. And those past experiences you have to think about and go, those bastards. That's a technical term. And when you do, you have to feel some never again. Because all the moments that are left in the rest of your life are a chance. Art and music is just a way for your unconscious to talk to you. And that's the best thing about it. You know, not everybody has to make their living doing it, thank heavens, because it would be more competitive than it is now. But it would be a good thing if you can find a way to let your mind wander so that you can begin to try new things. And the first new thing to try is a big, strong belief that begins to change the way you think about things. Not without me. Wait till I get here. He's going to be tough. I can tell he's going to fight me tooth and nail, isn't he? I can see he's a resistant client. Turn around for a second. Can I have your glasses for a minute? You won't need those for a second here. Just fold these. I'm just going to stick them up here so you can have them when you need them. Do-do-do-do-do. I love that theme from Jaws. I made so much money off that movie. They gave so many people phobias of everything. There were people in Kansas that wouldn't take a bath. But you got enough fears and enough worries. So what we're going to do is we're just going to help you to relax a little bit. You know what I have in my hands? You don't even know what I have in my hands. It's just a new idea. An idea with all the music that he loves. He can begin to listen inside his mind and begin to hum along with it. Because anything he's heard, whether it's blues or jazz or rock and roll, you can begin to hear the difference between a sound that would work and a sound that wouldn't work. All music is based on some principles that you can learn from anywhere. I don't really think about music the way most people do. I don't worry about scales and good notes and bad notes. Because I played jazz long enough, I know if you hit any bad note often enough, it sounds good. It's just that way. Picasso drew enough crazy-ass things that suddenly everybody was fighting over who could get one. After a while, the mind makes things so that they work. And all the things that you've heard, that you've hummed along with, all the sounds that you've made, really, in the back of your mind, you have a lifetime of experience to tune up your head. And this isn't just true about music. It's true about colors and shapes. Some people like square things and some like round things. Some like things that swirl and some like things that are clean and precise. It doesn't matter. It's just a way for your unconscious to go deeper and deeper still inside yourself and begin to change the beliefs, to begin to hook the pictures up inside your head so that you can make little experiments and find out what matches them. The nice thing about colors is that you can take colors and you can begin to do things with them. Now, in a moment, I'm going to take each of you one at a time, and I want the rest of you to go inside and to look at the beliefs you have about yourself melting, because they're simply not true. They're what was true about you in the past. The deeper you go, the more you can erase those things and begin to build something called desire. Desire and tenacity are what I consider to be powerful human emotions. They are the things that lead people out of the past and into the future. They are the things that make it so that people can do new things that they couldn't do before, so that you can take ideas and put them inside your mind. Because in a moment, sir, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes, but not yet. The first thing I want you to do is to feel tingling in your hands. And I want you to put the connection between the feelings that you have in your body, the desires that you have in things, and to begin to realize that you can take any picture inside your mind and then make it something that you interpret. It can be a guideline to guide your behavior, not a measure of how bad you have to feel, but the closer you get to it, the better you'll feel. And the more it will change the picture inside your head so that it becomes a bit more artistic. Because in a moment, when I ask you to open your eyes, in front of you there's lots of colors, there's lots of shapes, and I'm going to take a second and just show you a couple things. So let your eyes come forward and stay in a nice altered state. Nobody wants to be too conscious when they're being creative. Ask any musician, they'll tell you. Paper's down here. Look at the paper. See it? Blank paper. Now, all we're going to do is, because I like to be subtle, okay, is we're going to take something and you just pick whichever color strikes you the most. Pick one. Okay, all right, you pick one and I'll pick one, and I will just do a little demo here just to start with. And just take it, and what you do is you let the feelings in your body come up through your brain and go down your arm, and you just make anything that comes to your mind and just keep doing it, and doing it, and doing it. Go ahead. That's right. Feel bold. Then you take this stuff here. This is what really makes it work here. Subtle, huh? And then you go like this, put some on there, and you go like that. Like that. You give it some more of this stuff, and then you give it some more of this stuff, and some more of this stuff, and some more of this stuff, and you get in there and you give it a little bit of this stuff, and a little bit of that stuff, and a little bit here like that, and then you take some things that you've seen, and like these here, and, you know, suddenly things begin to take shape. And then you put a little something else in it, like this, you know, and then you can add other things, and then you can always add a little something else in there just to give it texture, see? See how that works? This is called the Reader's Digest version of art, right? Because it's very quick, because see, like that, see? Here, try mixing them a little bit together here. Take a deep breath. Mix it up a little bit. Try press. That's it. See how it takes a shape of its own. Isn't it nice? Here, take another deep breath. There you go. And what you do is say, so what we're going to do is I'm going to just take this one off here. Because, excuse me. All right, okay. All right. Art is a messy business. What can I say? All right. Colors, shapes, everything. Go fucking nuts. Okay, slowly open your eyes and stay inside a deep altered state. Okay, but look at the paper. It's a blank. Okay, let me just show you a couple things here. These are called paints. Okay, and the whole trick to painting is to be ferocious. It's hard to fire good help here. We'll put some of this one in, some of this one here. Couldn't do this ahead of time, could they? No. It's too much work. Make Richard do everything. Clean, cook, sew, everything. Just never ends here. Jesus, God.
Easy does it.
How'd you know that? That makes me very suspicious. That's fun. What do you mean, yeah? Just letting my ideas out. Oh. See, it all makes sense if you're as nutty as I am. All right, here we go. Now you got the spirit of the thing. Okay, so what we do is we take a little water, we dip it in, you take things, you take a little of this one, and maybe a little of this one, you kind of mix them together, you know, maybe a little of this one here, you know, and then you do something subtle like this. Right? And then you just kind of let your brain go nuts, see? And you just give it nice little strokes like this. And the more you do it, the better you feel. And you just find out what the hell happens, okay? Let your imagination start to run away with you. Because the more you open up the possibilities, the more possibilities open up. Okay, we have lots of colors here, and since you know how to open them, I'm gonna let you do that. And I want you to just fucking go crazy. Your eyes open, focus on the paper. It's very blank. Now, what we're going to do is we need some colors here, okay? So you just put some colors in. White's not really a color, but it's... It's not on their floor. Excuse me, dear, but no messing up the building, okay? We charge for that. Mess up the paper, not the building. I told you guys we were going to need rags. Here. Okay, now. We have a little water, take a paintbrush, stick it in a color, and then you just kind of give it something so that you get a little something going here. Then you try another one, and then you can like hook up a wire and be a little more precise about it so that you begin to add things and put things on top of things, little blood things. And you can add things if you want, like that. You know, you can always put horns on everything. I always do, like this. Yeah, like that, and then you get a little something going. like this, you know, and then they need to have other body parts, I always think, like, you know, it's always nice to have a tail, right, like that, and add it in, and then, of course, you can always add something else to give it a little texture, a little bit, you know, so that you kind of stack things on top of each other and give it a little bit of this sort of thing, and pretty soon you'll begin to see things coming out of things, and that's okay, because the more things come out of things, the more they can go back in. That's what I always say, right? Okay, blank paper, go nuts, but don't destroy the building.
It's no paper.
That's canvas.
Oh,
It's okay. Paul paid for it.
okay.
Canvas, mess up as much as you want, building, leave alone. Now, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to come out of this trance. Get to it, no hesitation. In a moment, I'm going to smack you really hard across. No, that's something else. In a moment, I'm going to touch you gently. And when I do, suddenly something's going to happen in the back of your mind. You're going to feel like standing up and expressing yourself. And all you're going to do is your ears are going to quadruple in size and become very sensitive so that you can listen very, very carefully. Okay? Now. Here, stand up. Come with me. Let me show you the magic of a modern technology. Watch this. You press this button here. Right? Cool. This button and this button, just because I like pressing buttons. Right? And then I'm going to... Okay, now, I want you to take this, and I want you to press the top button, okay? All right? And then I want you to do this. I want you to go, ah! Go, ah! Right, now go, ooh! Ooh! Now go, la-da-da-da-da.
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 Very good. And then you go, you like blues? Start with the button in. Top button. I go. Now lift your finger up. Press it in. Now lift it up. Keep playing. It's from the back of your spine. Now, the point I'm trying to make is a simple one. Given half a chance, there's really nothing you can't do. They told me it was impossible to hypnotize people without hundreds of hours of training. They told me you can't teach old dogs new tricks. And I don't believe it. Excuse me a second, sir. One second. I know it's not done. I'm just showing them. See? I'll get to it. Thank you. Thank you. You can sit down now. Thanks. You did good. Sleep. Well, given the difficulty that I have hypnotizing people, I thought it would be a good idea. Sit up straight a little bit. Sit up straight. Slide your butt back a bit. We don't want to lose you yet. Not for quite a while. Because I want you in your mind to begin to think about going out and deciding, we live in such a great age. You can buy a synthesizer with every instrument under the sun. You can lay down with that one 16 to 20 tracks of music before you ever touch a tape recorder. You have the palette. You can use a guitar to run it. You can use a vocoder to run it. You can learn all of how to hit the notes. It's not really that hard. Think of all the idiots that play music. It can't be that hard. People tell me, I can't learn guitar. Have you ever met guitar players? I'm sorry, I'm nothing personal against them, but, you know, I know I was one, but, you know, it wasn't because I was smart. It's just because you are tenacious enough and you take the time to do it and you listen, listen, listen. A small amount of listening produced that amount of music. Imagine what hours and hours and how much fun it will be to break one of the big beliefs you had that got in the way. Because this isn't just about music, and it's not just about art. It's about changing your life so that you can do whatever it is that you want, and whatever it is that you didn't think was possible. Sit down. Gently. That's right. Really relax now. Go inside your mind and realize you don't have to destroy your house to be an artist. All you need is a drop cloth and you'll be safe. But it does mean that you can try things. You can try wild modern art. You can also try drawing precise pictures. As you move back and forth between difference, you always create skill. Because skill, the things that I've done for years, has been based on the fact that I've tried one thing and tried the opposite. If one thing didn't work, I'd do something totally different and then find a medium in between so that I found ways of doing things. I also used the very old-fashioned approach. I asked people. When I asked the artist how he drew and he told me about that thing in his head so that when the hand on the outside moved, his hand moved, it opened up a world of experience for me. And he's just one artist. There are lots and lots of mental strategies. This doesn't just go for art and music. I did it with baseball players who could hit the ball. I mean, excuse me, but most athletic sports are really profound altered states. Nobody boxes in the waking state. You would die. You have to do pain control. You have to slow time down. Race car drivers don't drive in a normal waking state. They have to go into a profound state where they slow time down. Altered states is the rule that creates talent, not the exception. When you ask, I saw the spelling show on TV this morning, and they asked this woman how to spell a very difficult word, and she went, and spelled the letters. Well, for that moment, she was in a mini-altered state, which produced the right effect so that she could begin to do something that she'd wanted to do for years. But all it requires is a little concentration, a little enthusiasm, And then you can begin to get lost inside of new things, new opportunities, all kinds of new ways of doing things. Because this is only the beginning of what you can do for the rest of your life that will open up all kinds of possibilities. Now, I don't think that you should restrict this, because some of you say, well, I could never learn a martial art. I could never learn to swim. Last time I was in Ireland, 4 people drowned. They were adults, and they said, well, I was afraid, you know, to swim, and so therefore I never tried. Don't start in the ocean. Start in a shallow pool, right? And when I have people with swimming phobias, I just give them flippers and let them swim around with flippers. Anybody can swim with flippers on in a nice shallow pool so that if they have trouble, they can stand up. Once they get a little power, I cut an inch off the flippers, and I keep cutting it off until they aggravate them and they take them off. It's not a psychological phenomenon. Yes, the first phobic I had fallen when they were a young child. They were at the beach and they stepped on the sand and it opened up and they fell in a big pool and they almost drowned. So, and then after that, every time they go near water, their mother would go, "Ah!" like that. Now, I don't know if the phobia came from the traumatic experience or from the screaming of their mother, but they got to the point where they couldn't wash their hair. That's overcompensating. You know, fortunately, it was the Rastafarian time, so it was okay. But it still means that rather than making new choices, what you're doing is taking experiences and finding out how to limit it so that you can avoid something potential bad rather than to prepare for it. Sure, sometimes when you paint, you'll look at it and go, this is crap, and you throw it away and start over. Sometimes you're not in the right mood, so you change your mood. Sometimes when I went to play music, it was the last thing on earth I wanted to do, but it was time to do it. And that's what it really means to have talent, is that you can alter your state. If Muhammad Ali went into a boxing match and he wasn't in the mood that day, he didn't go, well, I'm sorry, I just don't feel like it. He changed his state, he went into a profound state, and that's why he won so much. He was a very talented man. He could see what somebody was doing. He could plan on how things were going to happen. And it doesn't mean it's easy. But actually, the more sophisticated it is, the more you can enjoy it. And the more you look at something and go, how the hell did they ever do that? And try it. That's what musicians do to learn new things. It's what artists do to learn new techniques. Nowadays, there's books full of techniques for art and music and writing and literature. You can go online and find thousands of different things. Kurt Vonnegut comes right out and tells you how he writes in one of his books. He writes, he pretends he's talking to his sister, telling her a story. He picks the most bizarre thing he could possibly think of and then starts at reality and writes to it. One of his books begins, he goes, I was something like the president of New York, the last president of the United States, on the island of death, Manhattan, in the Empire State Building, surrounded by candelabras. And then he wrote from this reality to that reality. Well, as a strategy to design something, he came right out in one of his books and described it. It's a different approach, but there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of approaches to music, to art, to literature that will produce profoundly interesting results. Something to be proud of. Someday you guys will be able to do that too. I just mastered being the most boring date there ever was. Women fall asleep the minute I touch them. Because in a moment, you're going to remember this. I want you all to remember. You did something, and it's only the beginning. Because when you sit back, sleep. That's right. You can begin to change the way you approach things. It doesn't matter if it's pastels or if it's paints. It doesn't matter what it is at all. You can do amazing things if you let yourself get wild. But not too wild. Because you want to be able to make sure that when it's time to see, you really look at things. The more you really look at things, the more you'll be able to draw and paint them. The more you begin to listen to things, the more you'll be able to recreate them. It's only through your ability to give yourself a chance and to realize the only thing that's stopping you is your own belief system. And if you let your belief system change now and really feel it inside you, it will stay with you for the rest of your life. So when you open your eyes, you're really going to see the world this time in terms of what's possible. Open your eyes now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Try a little consciousness. It goes a long ways. Thank you. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Thank you very much, sir. You bet. Now, this, by the way, isn't about art. It's not about music. It's about installation. If you change people's beliefs and give them the smallest piece of a new strategy, then they'll go and do things. There's still zillions of techniques. They could read books about techniques. They could take lessons, and they'll do a lot better because they won't be looking at somebody else's disapproval as a guide. The best guide for what you like is inside you. It's not about whether I like it. It's about whether you like it. It's a way for your unconscious to communicate with you. Poetry, literature, art, music. This is what our field should produce. It should produce more talented businessmen. It should create people who are solvers of problems, and those problems become the foundation of whole wealths of experience. When I ran a physics company, what we did was design new products based on what other people couldn't do. And I only used the meta model as a tool to do it. People would come in and go, well, this is impossible. Or they would come in and say even crazier things. They were trying to figure out how to match fingerprints, and they were trying to do it digitally. In fact, they still do it digitally. And guess what they found out? Terrible as it might sound, fingerprinting isn't as accurate as they wished it was. Now that we have DNA, we're discovering there's people who had perfect fingerprint matches, but the DNA doesn't match. I don't know about you guys, I find that a little frightening. But if we switch technologies and stop taking pictures and turning them into digits and start matching pictures to pictures, there's a thing called match filters, which would really solve this problem. It would make it as precise as DNA. In fact, in order to sort through DNA, ultimately we're going to have to shift to holographic models so that we begin to look at things from every side and every possibility, instead of, well, if we cut this out and cut this out and cut this out and cut this out and teach everybody the same way, then we will have homogenized away all the creativity. The truth is, it's not enough to teach everybody to play music the same way or even the same instrument. If you give up because tuba didn't satisfy you, excuse me, there's a lot more on the earth than tubas. In fact, now you hear music where they're putting together sitars and classical music and Latin drums, and people are really beginning to combine things. The earth is becoming a small place, but it doesn't mean we should give up our cultures. It means we should find out how well they blend with other things. And instead of killing each other over religion, we should just make room. The heavens are infinite, and so should the possibilities be. The more we create freedom for others, the more we'll have freedom for ourselves. Every single client that I break the chains of their belief systems helps me, because it reinforces my belief that there's more that meets the eye. And as I like to tell people, just remember that the candle is a flame and magic is afoot all the time. Magic is the rule, not the exception. The fact that people can change quickly, sometimes people just have a near air crash and they end up with a phobia of going to the airport for the rest of their life. Why shouldn't it be true that the opposite is true? And in fact, it is. You can get rid of your fears in an instant. In fact, you can open up worlds of possibility of reading and writing and playing music and writing poetry and doing all kinds of things, designing houses and clothing and purses and shoes. This is a consumer-based reality. Just think how many people are out there looking at shoes going, it just isn't the right shoe. I've never found the right suitcase, and I have thousands of them. It seems like everywhere I go, I end up getting an extra suitcase to get home. I could open my own suitcase store when I retire, but I'm going to look at them all and go, there has to be a better idea. Even with my own work, I've looked at it and gone, I don't think so. What do you mean 2 hours to cure a phobia? That's way too long. Brief therapy used to be 10 sessions and didn't work most of the time. Now that I've got it down, I'm looking for ways to get things done, because humans don't learn slowly. They learn best when they learn quickly. If If I drew stick figures on a deck of cards and went, you'd see the stick figure get up and walk across the room. If I handed you one a week for 5 years, you'd have no idea what it did. Because the mind patterns. The more you pattern things across their mind, the more you talk to people that can do things. And this isn't just about art and music. I've done this with schizophrenics. Once they can't tell the difference between their fantasies and reality, I find people that can tell what shared reality is. You should know what actually happened versus what didn't. But it doesn't mean that you have to make it the foundation of the future. The fact that you fell in a hole and got water up your nose doesn't mean that you should be afraid to take a bath for the rest of your life. And the fact that some screwy teacher said to you, "Oh, you're not musical. Put the tuba down and step away," shouldn't become the foundation of your never picking up another instrument and just going nuts to see how much fun you can have. Because you don't have to be Mozart. Mozart did it for a living. You're doing it for fun. So the more fun you make it, the more you listen to it, the better you do it, the more time you'll spend, the more things you'll try. Give yourself a chance. I know I will. Thank you very much.